throw an interception to Luke Kuechly, which 4 plays later leads to a Ned Dixon 7-yard touchdown pass, making it 17-7. Newton had 254 yards, 4 touchdowns. The Panthers piled up a record 548 yards total, 299 31st downs, 11 of 14 they converted on third downs. So the Dolphins, yet again, get embarrassed in prime time. And not having Jay Ajayi there, I think it's going to really hurt them for the rest of the year. Good luck to the Dolphins for the rest of the season with Jay Cutler under center, or Matt Moore, whatever you decide to choose. As for the Carolina Panthers winning their 3rd straight game, I think right now things are rolling. I love how they use Christian McCaffrey, especially in the pass and in the run, like he was utilized at Stanford last year. Good pickup with the 8th overall selection. I think this Panthers team could be playoff bound. They're only a half game behind the Saints. Now, the LA Chargers and the Jacksonville Jaguars, this was the craziest game of penalties, taunting penalties, but here comes the kicker. It's 17-14 Chargers. They have a chance to win this game. Joey Bosa, the defensive end for the Chargers, gets an unnecessary roughing the passer penalty, which leads to Josh Lambo tying the game with a 34-yard field goal and forcing overtime at 17-all. And this is really going to, for Charger fans, this is even worse than Joey Bosa. A.J. Bowie gets a huge interception off of Phillip Rivers on 3rd down, goes 51 yards, returns it to the Chargers' 2-yard line. Then Aaron Colvin, the cornerback for the Jaguars, gets a taunting penalty, and it puts the Chargers back 15 yards. A few plays later, Josh Lambo sets himself up for the game-winning 30-yard field goal with 3:12 left in overtime. The Jaguars win their 3rd straight, 20-17, while the Chargers are now 3-6. They lost 2 out of their last 3. For a team that lost their first 4 games, goes on to win their first 3 after the win against the Giants, almost wins against the New England Patriots, but unfortunately lost 21-13 with 2 blown plays, and now another game which they could have won and blew it. But I love you got to give a lot of props to Joey Bosa and Melvin Ingram, the best tandem at defense with a combined 18 sacks, probably the most feared pass rushers in the league. But the mistakes that Phil Rivers has made, I think, has hurt his team, and the penalties too didn't help on both sides. But the Jaguars right now, the accountability that we're seeing with Tom Coughlin is outstanding. In fact, this was the first game which Leonard Fournette didn't score a touchdown since he came into the league. So a lot of good things we're seeing with Jackson. Now, quickly, the New Orleans Saints go into Buffalo. They pile up a record 6 rushing touchdowns on the ground, 298 yards over the Buffalo Bills, and Mark Ingram scores 3 of those touchdowns himself. And Drew Brees gets in on the action. They shellac the Buffalo Bills 47-10 in embarrassing fashion. The only part of that game that was exciting for the Bills was when Tyrod Taylor was taken out of the game and Nathan Peterman came in and got a pass to Nick O'Leary for 10 yards. Other than that, nothing else was really that exciting in upstate New York. Now, the Dallas Cowboys go into Atlanta with 3 situations. 1, Ezekiel not playing the first of 6 games of his suspension. 2, Tyron Smith at left tackle is unfortunately not able to play with a groin injury that he's dealing with. So that puts Chaz Green in the left tackle position. And 3, the unfortunate injury to Sean Lee on their defense. Well, how did all those factors play in? They couldn't run the ball. Chaz Green couldn't protect Dak Prescott. In fact, he gave up 6 sacks to Adrian Claiborne. Adrian Claiborne had the franchise record for most sacks in a single game in Falcons history, beating Chuck Smith and Hall of Famer Claude Humphrey. In fact, he tied for the second most sacks in one day in NFL history with Derek Thomas, former Giant O.C. Umenyor, and Fred Dean. The record holder is still Derek Thomas, who had 7 sacks for the Chiefs against the Seahawks November 11th, 1990. The first time sacks became a recorded statistic was 1982. So this is huge right there, what Adrian Claiborne. He came in with a career 20 and a half sacks. Now make that 26.5. And Matt Bryant's 50-yard field goal, Tevin Coleman going to the 1, and Julio Jones getting a 24-yard pass. And then 3rd and goal to 3. My favorite was the back end zone pass to Justin Hardy. Yep, Falcons defeat the Cowboys 27-7. Unbelievable. And then the last game of the week, the Vikings beat the Redskins 38-30. Case Keenum, a glorified backup that most teams didn't think had a chance to ever be a good starting QB. Well, he just proved them wrong with a 4-touchdown performance. Yes, he had, unfortunate, 2 interceptions that gave a little bit of a chance to the Redskins. But the fact that he got his team to 8 of 12 on 3rd down, 5 of 5 in the red zone, and Adam Thielen had an 8-catch, season-high 166 yards, and Latavius Murray with a big touchdown on the ground. The Minnesota Vikings are 7-2, leading the NFC North, while the Redskins are at 4-5 and need a huge run to get themselves in the conversation for the playoffs. And that's all the Week 10 games. Now let's go into the upcoming week. That is Week 11 in the NFL. Teams that are the last 4 teams on the bye for the 2017 regular season. The Carolina Panthers, after what they did on Monday Night Football, kudos to them and 3 straight wins. The Colts, I'm hoping that Jacoby Brissett is all right. He did have a concussion in the game against Pittsburgh. I hope he'll be able to play this week because, honestly, Scott Tolzien is, as you saw week 1, is not the answer to the starting QB position. The New York Jets have had so many games this year in which they could have won, especially a few by double-digit leads, and yet relinquish those leads. They got a big test coming up next week at home against the Panthers. If they better do their homework on their ability to run, especially Jonathan Stewart, who had over 101 yards. Huge performance for him in that game against Miami. Then the 49ers. Well, you know what? They should celebrate. They got to win. Now let's see if they can get another win. And who knows, maybe some more wins before the regular season. Because this was a team that had 5 games in which they could have won and lost by a combined 15 points. So it's not like they're a terrible team, to be exact, but they have an inability to finish ahead. I think now with this particular win under their belt against the Giants, things I think will be going in a positive direction. Let's hope that Solomon Thomas will be able to come back for their defense and not be injured. Now, last night, Thursday Night Football, Week 11 got started. The Tennessee Titans visited the Pittsburgh Steelers for a huge matchup, and the Steelers won 40-17. They were up 16-14 at one point, and yet it was Antonio Brown who got a 5-yard score from Ben Roethlisberger, making it 23-14. Then the play-action fake at the goal line, hitting to Jesse James for a 1-yard pass. And then the back corner of the end zone to Antonio Brown. Antonio had a huge day. 3 of those 4 touchdowns for 144 yards and some really outstanding celebrations. Yeah, so another good week for them. They go into their 10-day rest with a huge win under their belt and leading the AFC North. And right now, probably the best record at the moment in the AFC over the Patriots, but Patriots are playing this week. Now, Chiefs, Giants in the neighborhood coming up this week. I'll be honest, the last 4 games, the Chiefs have struggled to convert on 3rd down. They've lost 3 of their last 4. And they've done 17 of 49 on 3rd down. And their net yards dipped below 300 in 2 of those games. And have allowed a net yard of 420 yards. But here's the great thing. They're going up against the 2nd worst defense in the league. That gives up 400.3 yards. Average, that gives up 26.4 points. A team that has pretty much given up on their coach, the season. This is the week where the Chiefs are ripe for a huge victory over a team that's hapless right now. And the fans will even agree. I know there are probably some Giant fans who still are going to root for their teams, and I am not telling you not to. That's your prerogative. You want to root for the team? Root for the team. That's what fans are. They root for teams in the good and the incredibly bad times. Ask the Cleveland Browns about that. But in this particular case, I cannot in good conscience pick the New York Giants. I'm going with the Kansas City Chiefs. Now, next game right here, we got the Minnesota Vikings at the site of Super Bowl 52. That's U.S. Bank Stadium, Minnesota, being visited by the league leading score getters, the L.A. Rams. And in this particular contest, I want to see what happens in terms of the Rams offense versus that vaunted Vikings defense. That will determine the game. And because of that, I'm going with the LA Rams to win on the road. This is the game, the big game, marquee game they need. They're going to a rough stretch with them, the Eagles coming up. So this is one of those prove-it games for the Rams. And with the way their offense has been playing and their defense on the air, Case Keenum is great, but I'll tell you, I think the Rams defense will have an answer for him and Thaleen. Watch for a lot of situations, especially cornerback, what they do with Adam Thaleen. I think they're going to really box him in and not give up as many yards as he had last week against Washington. I like the Rams to win this one. Next game right here, we got the Philadelphia Eagles visiting the Dallas Cowboys. The Eagles are coming off their bye week in great spirits. Previous week, 2 weeks ago, they had a huge victory against the Denver Broncos with 51 points. This time it's going to be even worse, I think, with the Cowboys. With Ezekiel Elliott not being able to play, the Cowboys are going to be boxed in with 8 people from the Philadelphia Eagles defense, and they're going to force Elliott to try and get to his other receivers. They're good receivers, don't get me wrong, with Cole Beasley and Terrence Williams and Dez Bryant. But Dez Bryant, I think he's going to get a nice he's going to have 2 people, especially a safety underneath him. He won't get that much receiving yards in this game. I like the Eagles with that four-head monster running back. With Jay Ajayi, what he did in his first game at home against the Broncos, look for him to get a 2-touchdown performance. I think he's going to get more heavily involved. I like the Eagles in this one. Now, the Washington Redskins going to the Big Easy to take on the New Orleans Saints, a Saints team that has won 7 straight since losing their first 2. A great balance of running and passing with Mark Ingram and Alvin Kamara, and the party is going to continue on Bourbon and Charles Street, and they're going to have bon temps, roulette. Oh, my God, the good times will roll. Them Saints are going to be marching in and getting a lot of hosannas. So look for Drew Brees to pass a lot this week. 2 touchdowns, I believe, will be going to Willie Snead, because everybody's going to be figuring on those 2 guys. You can see some more surprises. Can't wait. The only thing good for the opposing team, the Redskins, go on the Riverboat Swamp Tours and definitely check out the cuisine, especially the gumbo. It's because, believe me, if anybody knows how to pepper the gumbo, it's Nolan's. Now, the Atlanta Falcons and the Seattle Seahawks in the Emerald City, Monday Night Football. The Seahawks now without Richard Sherman. I still believe the Seahawks will win this game, even without Richard Sherman's services. That is a tough environment for Atlanta to play in a very loud place. If Atlanta is to win, they're really going to have to get Tevin Coleman heavily involved in the run and the pass. Not just Julio Jones, who the Seahawks defense will key on, but they're really going to have to get Tevin Coleman rolling in order for the Falcons to win. That's why I don't think it's going to happen. That's why I think the Seahawks are going to win this week. Give me the Seahawks any day. Now, the New England Patriots going to Mexico City to take on the Oakland Raiders. Raiders team coming off their bye week against a Patriots squad that has now won 5 straight. This is going to be fun to watch. And by fun, I mean it's going to be fun watching Tom Brady do a hat dance over the Oakland Raiders to the tune of 5 touchdowns. At the Estadio Azteca, which is the highest elevated stadium, one of the highest elevated stadiums. It's 5,000 feet higher than Mile High in Denver, where the New England Patriots previously played at on Sunday Night Football. In fact, the Patriots stayed in Denver to acclimate themselves to the environment that they're going to be getting in Mexico City with the smog and the elevated high-rise or the Well, anyway, the Patriots did that, and I think it's going to work out. 5 touchdowns on the day. Look for 3 of them to go to Rex Burkhead. He's going to get heavily involved, and it'll be their 6th straight win. And the Raiders, the only way I could see them winning this game is Marshawn Lynch being able to batter that Patriots defense, who early in the season were terrible. They did give up over 350-plus yards, but they have done better. They've given up less than 20 points in 5 straight games. That's going to be tough for the Raiders to penetrate. Matt Patricia is a genius who should be a head coach sometime next year. Now, the next game, we got the Detroit Lions heading to Chicago to take on the Bears. This is the 175th meeting of this historic NFC North rivalry. And the Bears do lead the series 97-72-5, but that doesn't matter. What matters is this present moment right here. The Lions have the players. When you got Kenny Golladay, who I think will be a key figure in that Lions offense, with Matthew Stafford throwing the ball, Eric Ebron, and Theo Riddick out of the backfield. And the Lions defense, I think, will be able to key in on Mitchell Trubisky. He's not a great quarterback, though he had a good performance last week. I'll give him his props. He had 297 yards last week against Green Bay, which is a career high for him, a 94 passer rating. Don't get me wrong. But at the end of the day, who's the better QB in this situation to me? Matthew Stafford, especially when it comes to yardage. And granted, they're playing against one of the top 10 defenses in the Bears. I still am going heavily on the Detroit Lions. Baltimore Ravens, Green Bay Packers. This right here is the not so marquee matchup, but for the Cheeseheads, look for another outstanding performance. I think Devontae Adams had that back shoulder throw. It's the second time Devontae's had a touchdown of that kind this year. Remember earlier in the season when they were in Dallas, the last time that Aaron Rodgers was healthy and didn't have a broken collarbone, he got the game-winning score on a back shoulder throw to Devontae Adams. That's the kind of skill set that Devontae brings to the Packers wide receiving core. Jordy Nelson has not been heard or seen from in weeks. I think it's about time they unleash him. I think this will be the week, even though they're playing up against a defense that is 3rd in the league in takeaways in interceptions with 11. With the acquisitions that they had, especially with Brandon Carr, who ties to the team lead. But at the end of the day, I still believe, with 3 interceptions, I still think the Green Bay Packers are going to come away with this one. They're going to have to go to their 3rd-string running back, considering Jones and Montgomery are hurt. But look for Hundley to also be involved in the running game, too. That's the kind of skill set he had at UCLA. So a lot of zone option plays we're going to see right there. All right, now the next game here, the Buffalo Bills visiting the LA Chargers, 4:05 game on CBS. The Bills are in a bit of a funk the last 2 weeks. And now they are turning from Tyrod Taylor, who had a 56-yard pitiful performance against the Saints in that 47-10 debacle, to Nathan Peterman. 5th-round pick, rookie out of Pittsburgh. And he could be going up against yet another backup. We don't know for sure whether or not Phillip Rivers will be able to play. He did sustain a concussion from the 2017 game against the Jacksonville Jaguars. So he'll probably be a game-time decision, if anything, or hours before the game. If he is not able to go, Rivers, then they will turn to Kellen Clemens, the former New York Jet, to be the starting QB. So you could have 2 backups going up against each other. I honestly think no matter who starts in this game, I got the LA Chargers. The reason why, Joey Bosa, Melvin Ingram. No matter who is under center for the Buffalo Bills, none of their offensive line will be prepared for what those two are going to do to Peterman, to any QB. Now that it's Peterman, I fear for him. I really fear for this rookie. He's going to have a disappointing week. It's going to be the same from this once vaunted Bills defense. Sean McDermott will try and key everything he can. But at the end of the day, the Chargers with those 2 fearsome pass rushers, It's going to be too much to overcome. Next game right here, the Cincinnati Bengals heading to take on the Denver Broncos in the Mile High. Both teams are in a huge funk right now, especially the Broncos, 5 consecutive losses. Whether it's Paxton Lynch or Brock Osweiler, again, under center, whoever is under center has to end the turnovers. And they got to be able to convert in the red zone. That's another problem. They cannot convert reds. They had 3 opportunities against the Patriots, and they end up with field goals. If they want to win this week, they got to convert for touchdowns. As for the Bengals, they can't run the ball at all. When they lost their running back, Jeremy Hill, to a season-ending ankle injury, Joe Mixon and Bernard are struggling because their offensive line is not the same. You lose 2 of your offensive linemen to free agency and Kevin Zeitler and Andrew Whitworth. This is the result of those 2 departures right there on the offensive line, why they can't run the ball and open the playbook up for A.J. Green, the other members of that offense, to do anything. So I think it's going to be another week of the same ineptitude for the Bengals. So that's why I got the Denver Broncos winning just by default. Now the next game right here, Arizona Cardinals visiting the Houston Texans. The Cardinals are now without Carson Palmer with a shoulder injury and are doubtful with Drew Stanton this week. So they are going to Blaine Gabbert, a guy who failed in both stints with the Jacksonville Jaguars, which he was drafted to, and recently with the San Francisco 49ers, the other NFC West team. As if things are not bad enough for the Cardinals as it is, I feel for Larry Fitzgerald, but I have to give Fitzgerald a lot of credit. He's been with his team through so many QBs, but no matter what, he's remained that one constant on that Cardinals offense. To me, he's a loyal, great, smart human being and just a gifted receiver. It's amazing that, he learned, he was a ball boy with the Vikings. Now he gets to play football on a weekly basis. Well, my hand is off to you, Larry. You are the true testament to unfaltering, if that's even the right word, unwavering loyalty to your team. But I don't think that loyalty is going to be enough without a running game, without an offense line, and and without Tyvon Branch in that secondary. I think this could be the week where Tom Savage, or if it's T.J. Yates, whoever's the QB, will be able to take advantage. I think the Texans are going to win this game on the ground most likely. Now, the Buccaneers are heading to Miami. This was supposed to be the Week 1 game, Week 1 opener in Miami, but due to Hurricane Irma, they had to postpone this game, and they had to reschedule it for this week, which was supposed to be the Buccaneers and Dolphins bye week, but that's not the case. So they are playing each other under very different circumstances. The first day game, the Dolphins have had in over a month since they've had 3 consecutive primetime games, all losses, by the way, while the Buccaneers snapped their 5-game losing streak against the Jets last week. So how does the Buccaneers go for an encore? I don't see an encore happening. You know what I see? Ryan Fitzpatrick struggling yet again, and I think this time Jay Cutler will learn from his mistakes and capitalize. Him and Jarvis Landry are going to have a big day together, and I think we're going to see plenty of Ndamukong Suh going right into the face of Ryan Fitzpatrick 3 times. He's angry, he's PO'd, and you're going to see that live and living color, folks. It is going to be epic. I fear for Fitzpatrick and that offense line trying to protect him. They're not going to run the ball the same this week. It's not the New York Jets, even though the Dolphins are no better. But I think this week, the Dolphins will finally end the bleeding and win this game. And finally, the last game of Week 11, the Jacksonville Jaguars against the winless, hopeless Cleveland Browns. I'm trying to think of another word, but it can't come to mind how bad, how terrible, how pathetic, how nauseating it is to watch the Cleveland Browns this year. A team that had their first double-digit lead last week. They didn't have their first lead until the Jets game. They have a quarterback that's had 12 interceptions and only a total of 4 touchdowns and 12 interceptions. While Blake Bortles, yes, he has 11 touchdowns and 7 interceptions, but Blake Bortles is 10 times better than Deshaun Kaiser, but we have to also take into account Kaiser's a rookie. He's learning the game on the fly. Well, not really on the fly, but he's still learning nonetheless. And the Jaguars are going to win this game. They're going to win because of their defense. They give up the least amount of points with 143. They lead the league in sacks with 35. So whoever is Kaiser, Kessler in that backfield, I also fear for them because this Cleveland Browns offensive line is being replaced by 2 guys who are not starters. So we could see a blitzkrieg like week 1 when the Jaguars had 10 sacks against the Houston Texans that jump-started this successful year they're having. It's going to happen yet again, and it's going to be even worse than I could possibly imagine. Those Browns fans wearing the dog masks, they should be trading those in for lunch bags to hide their faces so that nobody knows, so that their friends or relatives or loved ones don't know they're at the game. I wouldn't want anybody in my family to know if I were at a Cleveland Browns game. And I'm not a Cleveland Browns fan. And that's all the games of Week 11. Now, Week 12 in the college football circuit, and I can't believe it's Week 12, folks. We're getting towards the end of the season. The college football playoffs are getting formed already. We saw some huge upsets last week. We saw the Notre Dame Fighting Irish get snuffed in Miami 41-8 by the Hurricanes, a great year they're having. We saw the Auburn Tigers take care of the Georgia Bulldogs. 2 giant upsets that reshaped the playoff picture this past week. Now, the big games coming up. We got the Wolverines visiting the Badgers. The top 2 defenses in the country, you got to go with the Badgers of Wisconsin winning this one. The West Virginia Mountaineers and the Texas Longhorns. Of course, I got the Mountaineers winning that one. The Cavaliers of Virginia visiting the Miami Hurricanes. Not even a close contest. The fact is, they had 3 interceptions, strip sacks, and a fumble recovery. They're able to turn the ball over, score in bunches. I like the Hurricanes. The Knights of Orlando, Florida, 9-0 on the year, probably will win the American Athletic Conference and have a huge date coming up with South Florida, another team that is almost undefeated, only 1 loss, but still against Temple. They got this in the bag. We got the Mustangs visiting the Tigers. That should be a huge contest as well. Central Florida is creeping up on them, but SMU against Memphis. I got Memphis. I got the Tigers winning, another great team in the American Athletic Conference. Then you got the Kentucky Wildcats and the Georgia Bulldogs. The Bulldogs reeling from their upset loss against Auburn. They need somebody to take it out on, and that's Kentucky. While Kentucky are a few wins away from a 10-win season. But you got Nick Chubb, the running back who's 6 yards shy of 900 yards in the year with 10 rushing touchdowns. He needs 106 just to reach 1,000 yards for the 3rd time in his career. And he's going to have it, like the Bulldogs. And I think it's Uga the 4th. The Navy midshipmen against Notre Dame. This is like the 91st straight meeting. You got to go with the Fighting Irish. I like Louisville over Syracuse. I like the Gators to beat the UAB Blazers of Conference USA. Texas A&M, I think, will get trounced by the Ole Miss Rebels. The greatest crosstown rivalry, USC-UCLA, Sunday night, 8 o'clock ABC. Josh Rosen, Sam Darnold, the 2 quarterbacks likely to be drafted in the first round in the 2018 draft. I got Sam Darnold and the Trojans winning this one. They already got the South Division crown as it is, and the fight for the North in the Pac-12 between Washington State, Washington, and Stanford, and Washington going up against Utah. They need a victory at least to keep pace with the other 2 teams for that vaunted North crown division title. And yeah, I got Washington win that game. Thank you, folks, for watching yet another week of the Blitz Zone. I'm looking always for a new co-host to join me every single week, but I thank you as always for being loyal to me and tuning in. I love you guys. Love Staten Island. See you next week here on CTV. Good night. Peace.